So a little bit of information about me if you weren't at the Quizlet Live demonstration that we had earlier today. My name is Jessica Pilgreen and I am a National Board Certified English teacher. I'm also currently a doctoral candidate at the University of Missouri St. Louis in a cohort dedicated to creativity and generative design, which basically means that we are learning how to design educational experiences for students. And I can say that a lot of my educational experiences that I've created over the last few years have definitely involved Quizlet. I've been using Quizlet for 5 years, and I would say when I look back on the last 5 years at some of the resources I was using 5 years ago, Quizlet is probably the only one that I'm still using today because they continue to make updates and improvements to their product. And so it's something that I've been able to use for a long time, and I look forward to using for many years to come. I've been teaching for 15 years, and I've been at my current high school for 13 of those years. It's a very small public school in Southern Illinois. It's sort of a rural school. We have 400 kids in attendance. I have all of the ninth grade students and about half of the 12th grade students, where I teach English 1, English 1 Honors, British Literature, and English 4 classes. And I also coach the Scholar Bowl or Scholastic Bowl team there too. So I have several classes and different scenarios where I've been using Quizlet as part of my instruction. I also do write an educational technology blog called meandmylaptop.net. I do blog about Quizlet and other educational technology products and my experiences and opinions on those. So I'd love to have some people stop by and check that out, and then maybe give me some feedback or ask me some questions. All right, so first I have a very short poll. It's just a yes/no question. If you do happen to have a cell phone handy, or if you can open up another tab, you can just answer this question. Have you ever used Quizlet Diagrams before? So you'll go to the website and then select yes or no, or you can text your response. You'll have to text Jessica Pilge 432 to that number and then A or B. I'll give you guys a few minutes to respond to that. Oh, looks like a lot of first timers here. That's great. I know that initially when I heard about diagrams, I thought, oh, that's so cool, because I'm a very visual learner myself. But then my next thought was, as an English teacher, how am I going to use that in my classroom? I immediately think of diagrams as being something more science related, but it's simply not just something that's for science only. It can be used in any subject area that there is. Okay, so 83% of the people responded said no, they've never used it. 18% said yes. And I hope then that in the Q&A section then that people who have used it before, feel free to offer up some of your own tips and tricks as we go through diagrams today. Okay, so Quizlet Diagrams is just absolutely wonderful for anyone who is a visual learner. It's just visually stimulating to have colors. It's bright, it's engaging, it draws in your attention. I know personally, I would much rather look at a paper that has color on it than a black and white paper. If I could afford it, I would give my students all handouts that are in color, just because I know there's a little bit of that extra wow factor when they're looking at something in different colors. So in fact, I'm so visual, I tend to take my notes in colored ink and to draw like borders and sketch notes and that sort of thing. So for me, diagrams is just a wonderful way to reach students who have similar learning styles to my own. But don't think that it's just for visual learners. This is really a great tool for all learners. It's very fun and engaging. It's interactive. You get instant feedback, so students don't have to wait to pass in a paper and then wait until the next day to see if their answers were correct or not. They immediately know the answers and how they're doing, so they can assess their own understanding of concepts. It's very non-threatening because of the gameplay sort of style of Quizlet. It's not something that they're going to be afraid that people are going to make fun of them, or they're going to feel that they're not smart enough if they don't do well on something. And if they don't do well on something the first time, the great thing about Quizlet is that they can do it multiple times in class or on their own, and they can grow and see themselves develop as learners. Also, it's just very easy to differentiate your instruction. You can use Quizlet diagrams as a differentiation strategy where you're supporting a little bit of scaffolding to that kiddo who is maybe learning at a slower pace or is just experiencing a few more challenges with the concept. You can provide a link to a diagram for them to work on independently. And that's just a great way to differentiate your instruction. It's also very student-centered because once you provide the link, the students are working at their own pace and they can choose how they're studying with the diagrams. Are they going to be playing a game? Are they going to be doing just the Quizlet Learn sessions? So I just love how it's very customizable and it works with a wide variety of learning types and ability levels. It's very, very much user-friendly and student-friendly. Okay. So another thing that I like about Quizlet diagrams is that you can study anywhere that you have a computer or a phone. A lot of my students who are on the Scholar Bowl team will be on the bus en route to a different school for a competition, and they're all huddled together practicing with their phones, learning by using different Quizlet diagrams or study sets. So that's one thing that I love. You don't have to have a specific platform in order to use it. It's very much open to Apple. It's open to any kind of phone or Chromebooks that you might have. Also, there is just simply tons and tons of content that's ready to go. And if you don't see content specific to your area, then it's very easy to make your own content. And I'm going to show you some of that today. Okay. So one thing you can do is you can just save time by exploring what content is out there. When I opened up the Quizlet.com/diagrams, these are the different subject areas that pop up that I see right away. So I saw, anatomy and physiology, lots of different sciences, lots of social studies, language studies, ELL students, and that sort of thing. So if you just simply go to Quizlet.com/diagrams, those pop up and it's really easy for you to find what you're looking for. You're going to think you hit the jackpot. And if you don't see your subject, like I don't see ELA up there, but that doesn't mean that it's not there. You can still find tons and tons of content just by doing a simple search. Okay. So for example, here is a screenshot where I wanted to find something about the Globe Theater. My students were studying Shakespeare, and I wanted them to have a little bit of information about his performance space, the Globe Theater. So I typed Globe Theater into the search bar next to that magnifying glass that you see up there. And then I clicked on the option to only search for diagrams. And I came up with, let's see, it looks like there were 33 sets just on the Globe Theater, just diagrams on the Globe Theater. So again, even if you don't see something on the landing page there for diagrams, that doesn't mean that there isn't tons of content for you out there. There's probably tons of things that you can find, and you can copy those and save them to your personal profile and start using them first day of school if you want. Okay, so I'm curious to find out, here's another short poll. What subject do you teach? Now, I know several of you probably teach multiple subjects, and so you can just type it in there. If you teach multiple, you can enter multiple subjects that you teach, or maybe just the one that you're planning on using diagrams with the most. Okay. Oh, arts, that's great. I think art would be great with diagrams. I don't think I have any slides on art, but I could definitely see how it could be used. I see a lot of science, a lot of social studies, a lot of foreign languages. So we've got a really great representation of fourth grade. Okay, so that's probably multiple. Ooh, PE, wonderful. Okay, so we have a lot of different subjects there that are being covered, and I think that you can find content for any of those subjects up there. Okay, so if you can't find any content that you're absolutely in love with, one thing I recommend is making your own content. If you are looking for quality images that you can post and publish online, I recommend looking for things that are Creative Commons licensed, meaning that you're allowed to use them. You might have to give some attribution to the user who created the material, but it's free to use. So you might just want to do a simple Creative Commons search. And then Creative Commons actually allows you to search for photos that are posted on Google, Flickr, Wikimedia, and Pixabay. It's like a filter that filters out anything that's copyright protected. So you can still look at Google Images, but this way you have the safety of knowing that you have permission to use those, and you don't have to worry about any sort of liability with taking someone's images without their permission. Another great option is student or teacher created images. I really liked, if you were in the session right before we took the break, we saw that there was a hand-drawn picture on the teacher's dry erase board where she drew her husband and then herself and then rain to illustrate a point. I thought that was just a great way of using an original image. You could also have students create charts and other diagrams using Google Slides or PowerPoint. I've used Google Slides for a lot of mine, and I have a slide that'll show you how I've made my own in Google Slides. You could use Google Drawings, Microsoft Publisher. You could also use a website like storyboardthat.com, which allows you to create your own comics, and they are okay with that as long as you give credit saying that the image was created with storyboardthat.com. So if you need people, that's a great website to use. Or if you want, you can always purchase your images from a website like Teachers Pay Teachers or Shutterstock. So there's a lot of ways out there that you can get your own content. And again, with students, if you have a student who's very tech savvy, you could ask that student to create the content for you. Or if you have a student who's very artistic at drawing things by hand, you can always then save that original content that that student has made by either taking a picture with your phone if you have a quality camera on your phone. You could scan it if you have, for example, like a printer that has a scanner embedded into it, or you could use something like a document camera. I know I have a $99 document camera that I bought for my Pivo, and that does a really great job of taking pictures of student artwork. And then you can, again, upload that into diagrams and you'll have your own original content. Okay, so here I've created a short screencast that shows how easy it is to create a diagram. You simply upload an image. Then if you need to blur out any text, say that image is already labeled. It's a diagram that has labels already, like let's say an animal cell, and it already has mitochondria and cytoplasm and cell membrane and all of those things, and you want to save some time, you can just go in and blur out the text so that it doesn't show up, or just blur out some pieces of the text. Maybe you want to leave some pieces there, but you just want to eliminate a few of them. You can blur out portions of text, and I'll be showing you how to do that in a little bit. Once you've done that and your image is prepared, you add points to the image. By default, you're going to add just spots, but if you have the upgraded version, you can you could do squares or custom shapes as well, like arrows, stars, hearts, any shape you want. In fact, this screencast that I'm going to share with you is about shapes, and in fact, I probably could have uploaded just a white sheet of paper and then drawn all of the shapes using inside of the Quizlet diagram app. Or sorry, not app, the Quizlet diagram options. Okay. Then you give each point an answer. You can include a definition if you want to, or audio if you would like. And then you click on Create, and you can share then your Quizlet diagram with students using Google Classroom, using Remind, using a link for your students, any of those options. So let me show you, this is about maybe a 30-second video that just shows you how easy it is. It is sped up to save time. And then there at the end, it shows you what it looks like to be a student who's playing the matching version of the game with a Quizlet diagram. So you got to see there that I uploaded an image that I already had. I labeled my study set. I created points, gave each of the points a correct answer, and then I created the study set. I had the option to share with students, and then I played one quick game so you could see what that looked like on a student's end. Okay, here are some more examples of different diagrams. The first few are going to be ELA examples, and then I have some from other content areas as well that other teachers have created and are just really excellent examples of what you could do with diagrams in your own classroom. Okay, so the first one here, this is one I made for the plot pyramid. It's Freytag's plot pyramid. What I did was I created this image in Google Slides with just adding straight lines to create the outline of the pyramid. And I also bought some watercolor images there to spice it up a little bit. I bought those off of Teachers Pay Teachers, and I plotted them there and then put numbers, and then I saved that as a JPEG file. That individual slide was saved as a JPEG file, and then I uploaded that then to Quizlet as my image. Okay, this is match game view, so if I gave this to my students and told them to play a match game with this study set, this is what it would look like on their end. So they would click like denouement is the first term, and then they would click on the corresponding number where denouement goes. Same thing for rising action, inciting incident, and so on and so forth. So this would also work really, really well if you were doing any sort of a timeline. If you're in a social studies class, you could do a timeline. Also, if you teach any sort of a science or a vocational class, this would be a great way to do process. If there's a process or steps, let's say you're teaching students a specific recipe, you could put pictures of the steps and have them label which one comes first, second, third, fourth, and so on. You could also then use it for chemistry with a process for steps for completing a science experiment or chemistry experiment. And this would also be a great way for students if you're teaching some sort of a fiction or even a nonfiction text. You could use this for sequencing the important events. So there's a lot of ways that you could use this sort of a timeline or time structure format that I have here that I've used for the plot pyramid. Okay, all right. You could also use this for a diagram of characters. I like using this because this is higher order thinking skills. Now, sometimes these students, they're going to need to memorize, for example, here with mythology, that Zeus is god of the sky. So that's one thing I would do first. But then if I want to up the thinking that's required, if I want to make it a little more challenging and introduce some higher order thinking skills to my kiddos, instead of just a description they have to memorize, I'm going to give them pictures of characters from mythology, and then they have to observe those pictures and interpret what they see to determine the correct answer instead now. So it's higher order thinking skills. Now we're looking for clues to make an educated guess on the answer rather than just memorizing, oh, this is the definition for this. So this just makes it a little bit of a more of a challenge for the kids. So if you were doing, like let's say you teach science, I think you could do something like this, but with pictures of different types of leaves. And you could have the kids try to match the leaves with the picture of the leaf. So it'd be like a virtual leaf collection, okay? Or you could do something like this with types of clouds. Or types of birds. I know my daughter's 3 and she's learning types of birds in school right now at her daycare. But anytime you need to sort of have students look at a picture and analyze that picture to make educated guesses, you could use this. This would also be a great way for students to make inferences. So you're just kind of, you're adding a little bit more of a challenging having students make inferences rather than just memorizing facts. Okay, another idea I had is the matching chart. Okay, and I know that there is a matching test function on the regular study sets, but this just makes it a little more eye appealing to make a matching chart that is an image. So what students would do here is off to the side, if we were playing a matching game, they would have a list of characters from the play Romeo and Juliet, and then they would have to match the character with the way that that character dies in the play. Okay, so this is a great way to teach anything that involves cause and effect. Okay, so another thing you could do with this is you could do claim and evidence. So instead of cause of death, I could put different claims, persuasive statements, or opinions. And then instead of characters, I could have a list of pieces of evidence, and then they have to match which piece of evidence supports which statement that's been made in the left column. You could also do items in the left column and a description in the right column. You could do something with math, where in the left column you have a math property, like the identity property. I'm sorry, I'm not a math teacher. I know there's lots of properties. And then on the right-hand side, you have an example equation. So they have to match, 1 equals 1, and then match that with the name of the correct property that allows you to say 1 equals 1. So anytime you could do something matching, you could make a chart like this instead. Okay. Another idea is fill in the blank text. If there's something that students need to memorize, or if you want to make some sort of a closed test to give to your students, maybe you want to see if what they're reading is at grade level, or if they're struggling a lot, you can make a closed test for them using this fill in the blank option. This year, I know my school district wants to boost school spirit, so I'm going to be making one of these with the lyrics to our school's fight song, and I'll be blurring out some of the words, and then they'll be matching the correct word with the spot that I have blurred out. And so that'll be something that I'll do before I have them actually try to write out all the lyrics word for word, is I'll try to do some of these first, maybe even make a couple of them where on this version I have these words blurred out, on a different version I have a different set of words blurred out, and then hopefully after they've had a few exposures to this, they'll know all of the lyrics. You can upload a full text, blur out any words that you would like to leave out, and then you insert points in the blank spots, just the dots. And this is great scaffolding technique or preparation for a future assessment where they will not have a word bank. Or you could use this to modify an existing assessment. Okay. Again, I have a very brief screen video here, a screencast, so you can see what it looks like when I upload a text. I blur out some words, and then I turn it into a fill in the blank test. So I'm blurring out words here. Just keywords from the prologue to Romeo and Juliet. Then I go in and I insert different points with the correct words. I can share it with them online, and then they can do a practice review game. There we go. And then they earn a badge at the end. Okay, here are some other ideas from teachers who teach other subjects and not just English, so you can see how they use it in their classroom. Okay, so this one here, we've got on the far left, this person is matching a word with a picture. This is for language, for English language learners, for sight words, any of that. So they had to match the words, the foreign language words, with the picture. Okay. So this would be great. I could see this in any sort of foreign language, or again, if you're using sight words in the lower grades, this would be a great way to do that. The middle one is matching features, different land features and locations to this map of California. And then the far right, this is an elementary teacher who is having students match a word with the letter it starts with. So we have capital A and lowercase a here, and then the word they would match it with might be something like apple. So this might be something you would want to do as a whole class on a projector instead of doing it one by one, but I'm sure you could do it one by one or on an individual basis as well. Okay, here is a teacher that is using it in their classroom to teach different tools that are used for a class. I know often vocational classes, you're asked to pass a safety test. You need to know all of the different things or items that are used before you can actually use them hands-on in class. So this would be great for that. I think it would also be great for learning in a lab environment, the different equipment like beakers and that kind of things that they'll need. They're different tools that they'll need, or anything that has domain-specific vocabulary that they need to know what something looks like. This would also be great for family and consumer science classes, or even in the arts, if you wanted to teach band or music, you could use this for that too. Okay. Here are some more ideas. We've got, this is a teacher on the left with the table who's teaching common prepositions. So it's a grammar exercise where they have to know over, under, around, through, that sort of thing. In the center here, you can see they're teaching comparisons like old, older, more, less, that sort of thing. And you can see that they created customized shapes here. So they have the upgraded teacher version because they're creating their own shapes to learn. Oops. Okay, here's a really great example of a teacher who had her students create the visuals. And I'm not sure, it looks, because there's a little shadowing down here on this bottom one, I think she probably did a document camera. But again, you can use a document camera, you could use a scanner on your computer, you could use just a picture with your phone if you have a good camera on your phone. Any of those options would work really, really well if you want to upload student content. And what a great way to get them really part of your curriculum by having them create these sort of visual images that you can share with students. I think that's great, getting them very involved here. Here is a sample of some math study sets, the far left one. The teacher is having students learn terminology like a linear pair, vertical angles, perpendicular, find line HI or segment EF. So that's what he's doing here on this far left one. The middle one is math vocabulary, where they're teaching terms like translation, reflection, and rotation. So they have to match those terms with the picture that demonstrates or illustrates those terms. Okay. And then the one on the right, this person is teaching postulates. So side, 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 angle, 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 side, all those wonderful math postulates that students need to know. He's giving them visual representations, and then they have to match them with the descriptors. Okay. And then also here's a teacher who's teaching technology. We've got features of a Google Doc. If you need, and any class, any subject might need to teach their students how to use Google Docs. So they're showing the different features of Google Docs, and they've drawn boxes around the different features that students need to know. We have another one where they're teaching introduction to keyboarding, where maybe they need to learn the home row of keys. And you could easily go in then and you could blur out the letters if you wanted to test and make sure students know the location of specific letter keys here. And then we have the far right one there too, where they're learning about cells. So that's more of a more traditional sort of diagram here. Okay. So they can also do lots of different Quizlet activities where they can study independently. And you can also play Quizlet live with diagrams. So that is fun also. The only issue with that is they might have to click on the picture to enlarge it to get a better look at it. Sometimes when you're playing Quizlet live, initially the image shows up a little small. So you might have to zoom in a little bit on your screen to get a really good look at it. Okay, so I can show an example of how you would create a diagram, or we could open it up to questions. Either one. I'm not sure how we're doing on time right now.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea if you want to do a quick demo, Jessica, just to kind of clear up some of the confusion with creating diagrams. That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure. Okay.
Great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think for all of us here learning all these awesome tips from you. It was awesome.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to, this is my account. So if anybody would like to use any of my study sets, it's just Jess, which is short for Jessica, Pilgreen, P-I-L, and then green like the color. There's no spaces, dots, dashes. So if you're an English teacher or a Scholar Bowl coach and you would like to have access to any of my study sets, please feel free. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing, I mentioned that I want my students to learn our school's fight song. So I'm going to just click on, choose an image here, and over here in pictures, I've got a folder here for my Quizlet presentation. I'm going to click on the lyrics to Loyalty. And I'm going to call this one Loyalty Lyrics. Okay. So I want to blur out not all of the words, obviously. So I'm just going to pick a few key words that I want to eliminate and test students on. So let's see, I'm going to go over here, click on the pencil. And then over here, I'm clicking on blur out text on this image. So I'm going to draw a box around any of the words that I'd like to eliminate. So I'm going to eliminate loyal. See, it just blurs it out really quick. Let's try working. Let's get rid of stand. And land. Oops, there we go. Let's get rid of win. Slim. Fame. And victory. So these are the words that I want to eliminate. So they still have a lot of context here to give them clues what the answers are. But I am done. This looks good. So I'm going to save those changes. It's going to take a minute. All right, so now this is the image that I'm working with. You can see that all of the words that I wanted blurred out are blurred out. I am just going to add points. I mean, I could add a rectangle if I want to. Since I have the upgraded version, I could add a shape if I want, but I'm just going to stick with the points. I just like those. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the word that's missing. Loyal. Let me grab my copy, make sure I don't put anything in wrong. That would be embarrassing. Okay. Working. Stand. Land. Win. Slim. Fame. Victory. Okay. And by the way, I did create this image that you're looking at. I created it in a PowerPoint. I purchased some clip art and digital paper from Teachers Pay Teachers, and I found some open, like the music notes were just something I found online that weren't copyright protected. They were free to use. So I just put those into a PowerPoint, and then I downloaded that specific slide of the PowerPoint presentation and saved it as a JPEG file. And that's how I created it before I uploaded it into Quizlet. Okay, so I've got my words blurred out that I want blurred out. I've got my dots where I want them. Now I can click on create. So this is one of my favorite features, is that now I have this link. So I used to use just a class website quite a bit, and so I would post links like this. But recently our school has started using Google Classroom quite a bit, so now I use this instead, where I can just click on share on Google Classroom and then pick the class that I want to share it with. I could also text it out to my students using share on remind, or I could add it to the class folder. Okay. So this is what students are going to see whenever they come, except they won't see the live option. And so they can do learn, write, test, or match. Match is my favorite one. So I'm going to click on match, start the game. So it zooms in pretty closely. You'll probably have to click on the zoom out. And you can see it's not doing all of them, it's just doing some select ones. So if I play this multiple times, eventually I'll get to learn all of the words that are eliminated and not just the ones here in this session. Okay, so we are.
Cool. I think so. I have Sally here from User Ops, and I think there's a couple questions also that some people are wondering.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else quickly you want to talk about in terms of creating a diagram set. That was a really great overview.
Oh, great. Thank you. Nope.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me present.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I had so many awesome tips. I think it was like really cool to see the different creative ways you're using diagrams too.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah, so I've got a few questions queued up here from everybody joining us today. So one question that someone asked, as you showed in the Freytag's pyramid, the question was, can you add definitions for each of the elements?
Yes.
Oh, feel free to take it.
Jump on in.
Sorry. Yes, you can. I did not, but you can. Absolutely.
Yeah, and alternatively, you can have the terms, of course, that are linked. So all the options are terms linked to the location without a definition, terms with both a location on the diagram and a definition. And you can also have just terms and definitions on that set that aren't linked to the diagram necessarily, but could be related to the topic. Another question, Jessica kind of talked about this already, but I just wanted to reiterate, yes, you can use diagram sets with live, but only if you are an upgraded Quizlet teacher. If you are a free, I'd like to take this opportunity to mention, if you are a free user on Quizlet, we do have a great promo going on for the Unconference, so feel free to take advantage of that. Another question that we had from a few users, and you may have seen in Jessica's demo, but how do you blur if you are creating a new diagram or editing a set and adding a diagram? You'll be able to see the tool that looks like a pencil icon in the upper right corner, and it's called Blur Text or Delete Image. So you'll be able to click on that and use the blur tool. That is free, again, for all users. Which leads me to another question that we got. Can free users create diagram sets? Yes, you can create diagram sets as a free user, but you are going to be limited to up to 8 points on the diagram, and our upgraded users are able to use the additional tools that we have available, like adding rectangles instead of just points, or adding special shapes in your diagram. Cool. How are we doing on time?
We have a couple more minutes, so if you want to add a couple questions.
Yeah, Jessica, here's actually a good question for you. You had all these creative uses for diagram sets. We had a few teachers write in with questions about math sets. Do you happen to know any good examples of those?
The ones that I shared, I know I visited, those were some that were provided to me just so I could take a look. And I did take a look at those individual creators' accounts just to get a better idea of what they were showing. And they were very, very good. Like they had multiple sets built in for their like year-long curriculum. So I would go back and take a look. I don't remember the users' names, but I know that we're recording this and that they'll have access to the different usernames. Oh yeah, see, that's great.
So I just also wanted to point out, right, that when you're searching for sets on the Quizlet site, you can actually search specifically for diagram sets. So for example, if you're a geometry teacher and you need geometry sets, you can search and then select diagrams, and then you'll have options for sets that include diagrams. So here, for example, you can see for different angles, and then this has the different points. Yeah, I think that's about it for time then. I want to say thank you so much again, Jessica. It was really great hearing from you. We really appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.